and welcome to Campeche here in Mexico. I arrived yesterday on the train, had a great experience with Tren Maya from Palenque to here, and I'm now here for 3 full days. To explore this very interesting and historical town, one that is filled with a different sort of history than what we've experienced in a lot of other places, but it has some of that too. So Campeche was founded in 1540 by some Spanish conquistadors and was actually settled on top of what was then an existing city of the Maya known as Campeche. This city became legendary as a stopover for pirates and swashbucklers of all sorts through the 1500s and 1600s. And what's interesting about the city is that it was a walled city to help fend off the attacks from some of those same pirates. Down here on the waterfront of Campeche, you can see a nice long Malecon boardwalk that stretches for quite a long distance in both directions. I'm just here behind the city sign. But what's more interesting about this city than just the waterfront is that the original old part of the city is still surrounded by the original wall that was built here. So Campeche is one of only 2 cities in North America that still retains its original walls that were used to defend the city. Here and Quebec City in Quebec, Canada, are the 2 cities that remain with their original fortifications intact. As a result of the original fortifications still being here, this was designated a World Heritage Site by UNESCO back in the 90s. I had to put my hat on because it's too bright. So the way the city was set up was that the Spaniards lived inside the city walls, and then the Maya were pushed to the outside of the walls to live in the surrounding barrios. Unfortunately, little to nothing remains of the original Maya city, Campeche, that was here. It was basically completely wiped out when the Spaniard conquistadors came and settled their own new colony here. So today we're going to go check out a couple of places here that do deal with some of the history of the area. We're also going to take a look at the original wall that surrounds the old city in the center of the town, and a few other things as we go along. So let's get going. So here's a section of the original wall that still exists here today in Campeche. You can see the cathedral up there behind it, and we're going to walk over this way a little bit to kind of get on the other side and have a closer look. Here's another section of the wall here which comes over. There's actually an entranceway over through here. There's a few of them along the wall. Just looking at it, I would say that the wall is probably 20 plus feet high. A little watchtower up there in the corner, and a little watchtower here right above the entranceway as well. So at night, the city kind of, especially the old part of the city, really completely different. All the buildings were lit up, and with all the multicolors, which you'll see as we walk through here, it just kind of gives it this aura of looking like the city that it did 500 years ago. As we pan around here, you can see there's this open square in front of the old wall as well, and the water. The harbor is probably only a couple 100 meters, 300 meters maybe, straight that way. It wasn't very far off the Gulf Coast where they would come in and attempt to attack and, take over and or raise the city. Anyway, let's take a walk inside. So this doorway we just came through here is a reconstruction in 1955 of the original, which was demolished in the late 1800s. That gate actually reached all the way back to the ocean, where travelers would then leave and merchandise was picked up. So, you know, quite a span of land that's here now. This probably would have been much closer to the water level back in the day. I should mention, so that no one gets angry at me in the comments, the official name of this city is San Francisco de Campeche, not just Campeche, but everyone just calls it that. Campeche, of course, is based on the original Mayan city name of Campeche that was here. But you can see it's still a pretty formidable wall. Let's take a walk up this way. So obviously a lot of this storefronts and buildings here, you know, have been cleaned up to recreate the aura of what it looked like originally. But as you'll see, as we head further up the streets, I think anyway, and maybe someone else will tell me differently, but the impression that I get, the farther you up, you know, the less touristy it looks and the more authentic that the buildings begin to turn. Here's the park I was looking for as well. There's been a couple times here, just last night and again this morning, where, you know, I was kind of wandering around a little bit on those quiet side streets. This town very easily felt like it was 500 years ago, minus the cars parked on the side of the road, of course. But the buildings, the roads, all the old cobblestone streets that are here, yeah, all of it. It just feels very authentic, I guess is the best way to put it. Campeche, I think, is also a town that a lot of people skip over when they are traveling up through Mexico and the Yucatan. People just go straight to Merida because of all of the Maya history that's there, or they continue on to the other side over to like where Cancun is and those types of places. If you're into Mexico, and like the real Mexico, I guess you want to call it, and don't want a whole large amount of crowds and traffic and people and everything else, this is a great place to come, because it kind of, I think, gets skipped over quite frequently. It's not a huge tourist hotbed, so you know, you can kind of wander around and just explore at your own leisure. The museums and stuff here, from what I understand, I'm going to check those out. Today's Monday. Museums are closed here in Mexico on Mondays. But to my understanding is that much of the, you know, historical stuff to see here, the museums, and there's a fantastic Mayan museum here, and there's a history of the city of Campeche museum that's here, and from what I gathered, you know, they're never very busy, so that's a great opportunity to come and check some of that stuff out without feeling rushed and like you have to, you know, go from place to place to place as quickly as possible to get it all in. It's a great little park here. Lots of shade under the trees. It's actually a pretty good sized cloud overhead at the moment, so a little bit of respite from the heat. We will continue on from here. So, we're going to head to the other side of the old town here, where the rest of the wall wraps around, to what's known as Puerta de Tierra, or the Earth Door. And assuming it's open, I believe it is, you can actually use that access point to get up on top of the wall and have a look around. So it's just, I think, 4 blocks straight up. So let's head there now. This is what I was talking about earlier with the older buildings up this way. Has a more authentic feel to the original places that were here. So we just made our way up to the other end of the inner city here, and the entranceway to get on top. So these walls, by the way, I checked, and they reach 26 feet in height, which is about 8 to 9 meters. So good news, it's open. Make our way up top. I guess that makes me the ruler of Campeche. So I'm up here on top of the wall, all by myself. So this wall was completed in 1706 after decades of work. The Spanish get tired of getting razed and bombed and attacked by pirates, many of which who were hired by other countries like the French to come and try and take over control of this Spanish colonial city. So once this wall was finished in 1706, it maintained for about 150 years. Because if you remember from previous videos, we talked about some of the history of Mexico, the Spanish invasion, the Mexican Revolution and War of Independence. This was one of the first cities founded by the conquistadors in New Spain, aka Mexico, in 1520. And this area was also one of the last, I think, I may be wrong, but this area was also one of the last to give over its control to the Mexican population. So for reference, there's the church by the park we just walked. So that's about, I would say, halfway between this wall and the far wall near the water. This wall actually, well, the part you can walk on at least, just stops right here, but it does continue farther on down. I'm gonna say that my sunscreen's getting a good workout today. I guess we'll see how good it actually is. So it's really cool being up here though, just wandering the tops of the fort walls where the Spanish would have been defending the city 300 plus years ago. We'll take a walk over this way and have a look at the other end. So we're just making our way over here to the fortification on the far end. I suspect it's much like the other one, but wanted to take the walk over anyway, have a look. This one's actually very similar, except that it has less cannons strewn about. And there was the walkway to get up and down from within inside. What a cool spot to check out here in Campeche. I'm glad it was open today because most of the museums and things like that are closed on Mondays. So we're just here at the front gate down below where we walked across above. The museum was literally just a little display set up of a couple of fake pirates and some fake stuff. It's a picture of it here. but there wasn't much to it. So really, you're paying for the walking on top of the wall factor, which is still absolutely worth it. So anyway, let's get out of here and wander a little bit more. It's now 1 o'clock, so it's peak heat of the day. But yeah, let's take a little wander and see what else we can find. Gracias, señor. Hasta luego. So, for those keeping score or who are interested to know, Campeche is now my 18th city here in Mexico. And if everything goes to plan, I have 4 more to go. So that will make a grand total of 22, unless my math is wrong. I would say that out of all the cities I've been to so far, this one certainly has aspects of making it one of the incredibly unique cities as well, with the wall around the old city and the very Spanish colonial look to it, with all the brightly colored buildings.